So Linda and I often choose a topic that we're going to talk about for our times during the week, and we start our week on Sunday. And the topic we're choosing today, I think we're going to have to give a Pali title to, title in the Pali language, Nama Rupa, Namarupa, because there's different translations of that Pali word.
Right.
And,
Oh, go ahead.
and during the week we'll talk about these different translations. No, you go.
Right,
Linda.
right. That we'd like to bring a few of the translations out. Namarupa, literally means name and form in the Pali language, Pali, the language of the time of the Buddha. But it also refers to our identities, and body-mind, mind-body, and the relationship of those two as one.
So today we're going to more focus on the identity translation. So we'll be on to other ones during the week.
Yeah, and we went to our book, or this paragraph in our introduction. What we started off writing about, it's just a short sentence, which I'll read. Is It's common practice in an introduction to tell you, the reader, who we are. The inquiry, who are you, is a big part of certain philosophical and spiritual traditions.
And part of the Buddhist tradition we could easily add here.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's how we'll be talking about it. And I think some of this will not feel new to you who have been sitting with us and sitting with the practice and meditating with this reflective meditation practice. But we are more in the Buddhist camp of looking at who am I, who I am, as a self or an identity, and then being curious how it forms, or how is it forming, or how has it formed in reflection in our circumstances afterwards. So we really don't try to get rid of a self to be some type of selfless being.
And I used to, and I imagine other Buddhist practitioners used to believe, used to conceptualize sort of being a selfless being as another identity. And of course, I was told that no, it isn't something we can conceptualize, which probably there is something here that I can't conceptualize or experience. But what I know is that I trying to try to create a new identity of a selfless being was not it. That is what I know.
It's kind of circular and chasing your tail and being something you're not and calling it selfless. It really leads to a lot more problems than,
And a lot more identity. It can lead to a lot more identity.
Yeah.
And who's more selfless than who in my sock? I'm getting a little whatever punchy, but still.
Yes.
Not completely off.
Not completely off, because it is, translated in the Buddhist language as anatta, no self. That's a, very traditional translation. And so there's a ideal and a desire to get to that state.
And then again, conceptualizing it as the new identity, the better identity. But we head in the direction of knowing more and more slowly over time, back and forth, that we are not a solid, unchanging self, really viewing this self and these identities as shifting and changing, and not just one thing.
Right. And interestingly enough, that we can hear or see this, hear ourselves, I would say, even here when we talk about our meditation sittings. That's often the places we can start to see the not so solid self appear. And that's what we try to point out when we're talking about our meditation.
So then we pulled another little paragraph from the book that also closely followed the other one, while you hear our voices in this book, you may not always know who is speaking. This is a step forward in our practice. We've become less concerned with who said what. In fact, many times we can't remember who said what, but if it's honest and relevant, then it belongs to us all. We keep cross-fertilizing each other's thoughts, feelings, experience, and understanding. We write about ourselves, not to elevate us, but to take our teachings out of the abstract and conceptual and into the nitty-gritty stuff of life.
This was when we first kind of happened upon this. This was a real uplift, Nelly, as I remember it, was like, oh, we don't have to be ourself, in writing the book. Actually, things can come together and blend in a different way. And to not name who's speaking what was kind of a new idea. It did feel like a step forward in our practice at the time.
Yeah, I got an email this morning that was about singing duets, and of course I thought of you because you sing, but I also thought of us because in a way we could sort of say this was kind of a duet, but then we had our solos, etc.
Right. And a lot of people could tell who know us could tell when either one of us was writing a certain passage.
Right. And other people probably couldn't.
Right.
So, so it wasn't about, we did some very things that wrote some things in the book that really could easily identify us if people knew us. Sometimes we even spoke of our identities. So we're not trying to completely let go of identities. That's not the direction here.
No, it seemed more like we became more flexible with attribution or claiming I said that and wanting
Mhm.
others to know that like that was mine. Uh,
Right.
that seemed to be reduced. And I do see that being reduced even in our Sangha, that people aren't holding so much on to these are my words, please put my name after them. More like that, I can relate to that, that I could have said that myself. It's kind of ours.
Right. We keep cross-fertilizing each other's thoughts, feelings, experience, and understanding. It's really what we are doing, isn't it?
It is. So
So
that,
we need that identity. That's, one thing, because we try to let go of all identity. That's a big problem because we need it. It's like we're mammals. We need our communities. We need our tribes. We need our sanghas.
we need our own voice to be heard. We need to be acknowledged. There are certain types of ways that if we're not seen, it can be very harmful and damaging and create other harm. So we're trying to really look at a middle path here, like a larger, broader path of identity, and at times holding on to it more tightly, at times more loosely, but that we want to know more about identity rather than shutting it down and telling us less about our identities.
Right. Because we think identity matters, but we also know it's complicated. We have so many identities. I have so many identities, and my identities have changed over time, but some of my identities kind of remain. But we often say this, we can change how we are with them.
And
Then
that can
again, they may
soften.
just more subtly change just because of
Right,
conditions.
right, right. So that's what we're interested in talking about with you all for our next few times of how you see your identity shift and change, and what identities are really something that you take up these days. Often, for me, my identities are very closely related to how I look or what I do. Um, and that then when I can poke a few holes in those, I can see more about that's not really truly all of who I am.
Yeah, good ending point, I think.
Okay.